welcome to Shut Up and Talk. I am Doug Walker. Our very first guest actually spent a good chunk of her childhood on screen. You may remember her from unforgettable films like Mrs. Doubtfire, Miracle on 34th Street, and Matilda. And some other films we like to forget, like A Simple Wish and Thomas the Tank Engine. And she also spends her time totally schooling me because I made comments like that on Nostalgia Critic. She is a very awesome lady. We are incredibly happy to have her here as our very first guest, Mara Wilson. Say hi, Mara.
Hey.
I have to say, I notice you have boobs. How's that working out for you?
You and the rest of the internet, yeah.
Because there does seem to be this strange understanding that child actors do not, in fact, grow up. So is that something where you see people doing a double take?
Well, what surprises me most, I mean, when people are like, hey, you've got boobs now, you know, I'm just like, well, yes, I do. But what really surprises me are the people who say, my childhood is ruined because you have boobs now. Like, I am actually the catalyst of this. I have kind of a funny story about that. My dear friend Andrew, we did an audition together in college where there was a love scene and we had to make out and get very physical with each other, and the director was like, are you okay with doing this? Are you okay with doing this? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And Andrew said that was the precise moment that his childhood ended. Yeah, he was like, oh God, do I have to feel Matilda up in this? I don't think we actually went that far, but the director was just like, are you okay if we do this? And, you know, it's NYU, so you kind of have to say yes.
You almost wonder what the Harry Potter kids go through, I mean, because their fans had to literally watch them develop private parts, pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Like Thomas, I was at such an awkward age in Thomas. All the photos of me at the time are just awful. It's kind of like having, you know, the entire world see your middle school yearbook.
When someone tells me, or if someone was to tell someone, you're Amara Wilson, I mean, obviously people could see it, but do people recognize you not knowing the name or not knowing that you are in fact Mara Wilson? Like, do people recognize you on the street or not really?
They do sometimes. I get a lot from young retail people.
Really?
I'll go into a Jamba Juice or I'll go shoe shopping and, you know, the girl behind the counter is 19 years old and she'll look at me funny and be like, you know, you look like that girl from Matilda. I'll be like, yeah, I get that a lot, because I do. It's kind of embarrassing when people make a fuss. It's like, oh yeah, I get shy suddenly. I've had people come up to me before saying, is your name Matilda? And I'll say no, and they'll just walk away. Very disappointed, they'll just walk away. But it's a sort of this age group that does it, this age group, I guess, that grew up with Matilda. But also, most people in New York really don't care. That's one thing I like about living in New York, is nobody cares. They're just like, oh, well, okay, that's who you are. You know, we got Susan Sarandon, we got much more famous people, you know, coming into our deli every day.
Do you have people who come up to you and say, are you Matilda? Yes, you ruined my childhood by having boobs.
Not yet, but it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time.
Obviously, the whole acting career, I mean, it's what you're best known for. How did you, in fact, get into that? Or actually, was it even your choice to get into that, being a child star?
Oh, it was my choice. I'm one of the few child actors who actually decided that's what I wanted. I was 5 years old, and my oldest brother had done a little bit of acting, just bit parts in tiny movies, and my mom used to say that he did big parts in small movies and small parts in big movies, and he doesn't do that at all now. But I saw what he was doing, and I was always making up stories and performing them. They were like epic poems. I would sing them, and I loved to perform. So I said that I wanted to go on auditions. I went up to my mom and I said, Mommy, I want to do what Danny does. And she said, no, you don't. They actually tried to discourage me. My parents tried to discourage me, but then after explaining the concept of rejection to me, they decided to let me go on a few auditions. And then I was cast in a Lunchables commercial, and I was cast in a few other commercials, I think. And then I got called for a movie, which was Mrs. Doubtfire, and things just snowballed. I did not expect ever to be in movies. I did not expect ever to be headlining a movie. I was a nerdy kid. I really was. I was not child star material. It was like, oh yeah, there's me and there's the Olsen twins. You know, they were the popular girls and I was the drama club nerd.
One of the emails you were telling me that they kept dressing you in pink and making you like super girly. You're like, dude, I wear like tomboy clothes, okay? I wear jeans.
That happened all the time. I mean, I secretly do love pink, but it's not because I'm girly. It's because I'm the reincarnation of Oscar Wilde. But yeah, when I was a kid, I was a tomboy. I had 3 older brothers, you know, and we weren't really a sports-playing family. We were more of a let's talk about Star Wars family, but I didn't really want to be cutesy. I wanted to be respected. And they kept doing that. They kept saying, oh, yeah, we're going to make you the next Shirley Temple. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to curl your hair. And I felt kind of objectified at times, like, oh, they have to make me cute. I know I feel like a lot of that happened in Miracle, and all of these different critics would be saying, God, she's so annoyingly cute. And I would be thinking, yeah, I know. Isn't that annoying? I was crossing my fingers for the day a role would come where I could play a badass. Never really seemed to happen, though.
You schooled the nostalgia critic pretty well.
It's true. I've become a badass now that I'm an adult. Long time coming.
You've really wanted to go into acting really since childhood. What essentially got you out of it, at least in terms of movies?
Well, there were a couple things. I did a lot of movies that were mostly kids' movies. My parents always thought that there weren't enough kids' movies out there, and I've said this a bunch of times. People have asked me, why were you in Thomas? Why were you in A Simple Wish? And my answer is, you know what? I had to keep acting, and if you sort of do as a child actor, you have to keep going. It's inertia, in a way. And there can really only be so many To Kill a Mockingbirds. If you're going to be a child actor, a lot of the successful child actors I know have been in some pretty terrible movies. And and honestly, I had a lot of fun doing those. Thomas was one of the most fun times I've ever had in my life, just traveling, and everybody on the set was just so much fun. It was a really good time. But I think I had always known that I didn't want to be an actor. In fact, the thing that I liked most about performing when I was little was telling stories. There are clips of me doing screen tests for Doubtfire where I'm just telling stories. They wanted to see how I would be with Robin, and I told him a very long-winded story about a little bunny having an adventure, and it's really funny. At the end of it, he whistles and looks right into the camera and goes, "We'll be right back." So yeah, writing was really what I wanted to do. I wanted to write before I could write, and I wanted to tell stories, and the performing of it was just something that was almost secondary. So I got a little older, and I thought, film wasn't as fun anymore. I wasn't playing the kind of parts that I wanted to get, and I was also, I was an awkward preteen, and they always want teenagers to be playing preteens and preteens to be playing kids, and I couldn't anymore. Additionally, I also discovered theater at this time. It's funny, I make the joke that, I wanted to run away from the film industry and be in community theater, and I did. It felt so much more like a big deal to me to get a part in the play than it did in film. I don't know if it's just like an inherent masochism or what, but I love working for things. I like working hard. I like, metaphorically speaking, getting my hands dirty. And in film, you don't really get to see the payoff so much. You're sort of separate from the end results until the premiere. So that disconnect, I didn't really enjoy so much.
You essentially survived something that a lot of child actors could not, and that's being a child actor. For example, I have one friend who went out there and he knew a few of the kids from High School Musical, and they said that they liked hanging out with him because he treated them like actual kids. What advice would you have for not only child actors, but the parents of child actors who are going into this?
I would say do not push your child into acting. Do not be the one to push your child into it. You can push your child to do other things. You can push your child to take acting classes even, if that's what you insist. I don't think I would do that with my children. But don't push them into it. Let them make their own decision. Let them keep the money that they've made and save it for an education, because they do need an education. And I would also say that you have to think about why you want to do it. Don't do it to become famous. Being famous is not very fun for kids, I found. The glamour kind of fades. The glamour fades quickly, and you adapt to it, even as a kid. It's the same thing with a lot of gifted children, where they will get so much praise and be told so many times, you are great, you are brilliant, you are this, that they always feel like they have to rise to that level for the rest of their lives. And I've seen that happen with people who were told they were so brilliant when they were young that they're always feeling like they have to overcome it later on. I would say if you do want to act, the best thing to do, I think, is to do like 1 or 2 films, then go back to real life. Have it be an experience, not a career. I would say, obviously there are always going to be children doing this, and personally I cannot wait until we have, the CGI kids to fill in for the actual child actors.
They're already starting. Did you see the new Twilight? There's a CGI baby.
Oh, good God, no.
Lindsay,
Lindsay asked me if I wanted to see it, and I said I refused to pay for that, which is embarrassing because I actually have a friend who was in Twilight.
I love Twilight is so bad you still won't go see it even though a friend is in it. I love that.
Exactly. I still won't see it because I have some moral issues with it. Maybe we could buy tickets for something else and sneak in, but I'm not putting my money towards that.
You seem to have sort of this very, when you speak of it, certainly compared to other child actors, I mean, you seem to have these very fond memories of it, you know, very optimistic look. Were there ever times where, let's say, you did not have that point of view? Maybe things were not so much fun and things were too much and it was just unpleasant memories. And what do you think caused that?
I think I do have a lot of regrets. I think sometimes if things were hard, I know working on A Simple Wish, I don't really remember, but I think of my behavior at the time on set, and I feel really bad because I know that my mother had recently died, and I was very upset, and I just wasn't in a good place, and I should not have been filming a movie, and I feel really bad for those things. I'm really mostly embarrassed about the things that I've done and the memories that I have, like, oh, I could have done that better. I could have put in more effort. I could have worked that. I'm sort of a born perfectionist. I remember having an audition for a movie where my parents got divorced and I was, begging to leave with my father, and they kept making me go through it again and again, where basically the father character says, no, I don't want you. And so I was just, crying and sobbing in these auditions all the time, and I thought nothing of it. And I look back on that now, and I remember going back on callbacks for that several times. And, and they had me crying and screaming over and over again. And I was thinking, that's kind of messed up, I know it's acting, and they knew it was acting, and putting me through that again and again was, I can imagine, was probably kind of taxing for a 9-year-old.
Did they treat you like a child, like, in a good way, like, you actually are a child and there's rules and such, or did they treat you more like a little adult, or how were you treated?
It varied, really. I could tell when people were being condescending. I could tell that, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it when people said I was cute. I thought that was a condescending term. Now I don't mind it. A lot had kids or had worked with kids before, so they knew what to expect. And some people did treat me like a little adult, but the people who actually saw who I was as a child were probably the ones that I got along best with. Danny DeVito allowed me to have so much fun. He allowed me to be really creative, and we played games, and I helped design a doll that's in the movie.
Now, you were saying that you're a big fan of writing. I notice you still write. You have the Mara Wilson Writes Stuff blog there. Tell me about your writing. What is it that you so enjoy about it, and outside of the Mara Wilson Writes Stuff blog, are there other places where they can see your writing?
I started out writing plays and some, performance pieces at NYU, and I really liked plays because it was all dialogue. It was all the way that people talked. And as a lifelong eavesdropper, dialogue has come easily to me. I'm trying to get this play that I've been working on forever. It's a play called Sheeple, and it's about teenagers and culture, and it's kind of a coming-of-age story. I think I actually want to break into young adult novel writing. I have a couple of ideas that I'm working on right now for books, and none of them are paranormal romances. And I work with teenagers and kids, and I've always worked with kids. Most of my jobs have been working with kids and with young people. And I find the way that they think about the world to be very interesting.
Now, outside of writing and hanging out with Lindsay Ellis, what do you do with most of your time?
Well, I work for a nonprofit organization called Publicolor. It's a really cool organization. I've worked with a bunch of nonprofits, and Publicolor is really amazing. We go into New York City public schools, and we repaint the schools. Because I don't know if you've ever seen pictures of New York City public schools, but they're pretty depressing looking. We go into the schools and then work with the students in those schools to repaint them and work on design, and the kids get to vote on what colors they want to paint it. They get support, and they get a family, and they get free food. And then we also have kids that we actually induct into the program, and those kids get scholarship help and mentoring, and they go to workshops during the week, and they go on college tours. It's a really cool organization, and I have met so many amazing kids through this program, so many brilliant kids who are, now going on to college and living their lives. So yeah, if anybody wants to support or donate it or find out more about Public Color, you can go ahead and go to publiccolor.org. You can look up volunteering if you're in the New York area. Come out on a Saturday and help us paint.
Oh, that's wonderful. Congrats on that.
I've worked for a lot of nonprofits, and it's one that I really believe in.
Something I will ask, simply because people will kill me if I don't. The only review that I said I was going to do at one point as the nostalgia critic and actually decided not to, I actually crossed it off the list even though I announced it, was the Matilda review. And it's a film that, as you probably know, I'm not a fan of, but I know so many people are. And I know you enjoy the film too. As someone who just sees it as such a mean, ugly movie, what is the attraction just from someone who does not get it? What do you get out of it, aside of obviously being in it?
It is exceptionally dark, and you're right. It is exceptionally dark. But there's something, I think I had a history with a book too. One of my earliest memories is my mom took me to a school one day because she was actually reading the book out loud to a classroom and, becoming the Trunchbull and not quite understanding what this was, but really liking it. It's just absurd enough that there's a level of distance with it.
You were talking about writing young adult books. I don't know. I could see a sequel to Matilda, maybe dabbling a little bit in the supernatural there.
People have been asking me all the time, why are you not doing a Matilda 2? And they don't understand that, it's based on a book. Roald Dahl, may rest in peace, he's no longer alive.
You are the actress. You have total control.
Exactly. And that's another thing too. Actors don't have that much control, and I don't think people realize that. Film is very much, it's been said, a director's medium. In fact, I have a hard time telling when an actor is good or not because I don't know. I don't know what choices they made and which choices the directors told them to make. No, but I'm saying if we made like a Matilda 2 poster, Matilda's all grown up and kicking ass or something like that. If people want to make that kind of, mock presentation, then that's fine with me. Actually, somebody the other day told me that they really liked Miracle on Elm Street. And I am just dying for that to be made. I would love to see that made.
Well, now there's going to be, after seeing this, there's going to be people out there that are going to make Miracle on Elm Street and Matilda 2 posters. They're going to give Matilda like a machine gun or something like that.
Go right ahead.
I can see this.
You have my blessing.
Two questions I like to end interviews with, they're polar opposites. Whether it be professional or personal, what would you say is one of the toughest things you ever had to go through, and how did you get through it?
I think undoubtedly the most difficult thing that I've had to deal with in my life was my mother dying. And I'm not going to go into detail about that right now, but I will say that what really seemed to help me at the time was having a creative outlet. That's something that has always helped me. And I was writing stories at the time. I was writing scripts. I was writing plays. And I look back on what I wrote now and I realize just how therapeutic it was. And it was interesting to me to see that. And I've also had some like when I've gone through something rough, I found myself becoming more inspired. I went through a really rough breakup a few years ago, and I started writing more and more and more after that, and it fueled it in a way. It fueled it, and I was able to channel my frustration and my sadness into something. And I think that that's really, one of the best things that you can do. I think channeling it into something always works, whether it's exercise, whether it's helping others. That's another thing that I've always loved to do. I've always done stuff with charities and nonprofit organizations, and when I'm sad about my own life or I'm frustrated with the way things are going, and usually I'm pretty happy with the way things are, but when I am reaching out and doing things for others, as corny as it may sound, actually helps a lot.
That doesn't sound corny at all.
Yeah, well, I'm glad. It's you're a good-hearted Midwesterner, though, Doug. I'm a cold-hearted New Yorker. So I think that's something that's always made me feel good, is reaching out and helping others and assisting others where they need help. And also having a creative outlet. Those are things that have gotten me through a lot.
Well, you might have just answered my final question here. Again, whether it be professional or personal, what is the one thing you are the most proud of that you've ever done?
Probably, yeah. It would either have to be, the work that I've done, the actual like hands-on work I've done, whether through charity work when I was a kid, or the nonprofits that I've worked with as an adult, and I've worked with a couple. Uh, those things were very important to me. Another thing that's been a kind of a game changer in my life was a piece I wrote when I was in, let's see, my second year of college. I wrote and performed a piece it was very personal, but it was very honest. And that's one thing that I really like. I think vulnerable is the new cynical. Um, I think allowing yourself to be honest and to be open. There's a lot of sarcastic humor out there, and I think if it's done well, case in point, that I can really appreciate that. But when it's just kind of mean for the sake of being mean, I can't appreciate it. It gets very old very fast. I think it's very lazy. So I wrote this piece when I was 19, and I performed it, and it was a solo piece, just about like my life and my family, and afterwards, people were coming up to me with tears in their eyes, saying, I could relate to this. And it was funny because the more personal that I had made it, the more people seemed to interact with it. And that was a piece that really taught me, okay, I can do this, I can write something, and there is an audience out there that is going to be willing to connect to this. And I've looked back on it now, and it's not the best thing I've written, but it meant something. It meant something to me, and I think you have to look back in the process. I think you have to look back at what life was like at that time and what I knew about writing at that time, and I think looking back on it is something that makes me immensely proud for where I was at the time. And it also opened up these doors and showed me, wow, okay, this is really what I want to do. I can actually reach out and I can do these things. And this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Mara, I can't explain how honored and ecstatic I am to have you as my very first guest. As if I had to say it, thank you so much for having a good sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. So much good has come of it. I think so much good has come of it, and it's been a lot of fun. And I was watching. I've gotten into it myself. I was watching. I watched Lindsay's Freddy Got Fingered video today. I've gotten, my. I came home and my roommate was watching her reality bites. It was. We've all kind of converted, I think. So thank you for that, and it's always fun every time I do something with Channel Awesome. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Well, thank you so much again. I am Doug Walker. This was the awesome Mara Wilson, and we shall talk with you later.